You're listening to the Jōrni Podcast. Why does financial stability often feel more unsettling than financial struggle? Stay tuned for a surprising answer in today's episode. Hi, I'm Petra Brunbauer, and with decades of experience with sadness, pain, anxiety, and stress, I finally figured out how to leave all that behind. And this podcast shows you how to break free permanently so you can reclaim your sanity and find the self-esteem and energy to go after the life you desire. With real talk about mental health, holistic healing, and the tough journey of coming out the other end. This is the Jōrni Podcast. Welcome to today's episode. Before I introduce today's guest, I wanted to take a moment and let you know that I will be speaking at the upcoming Trauma Super Conference. If you have been following this podcast and our work at the Jōrni, you might know how humbled I am to be sharing my work on functional freeze alongside so many incredible experts, and I'm also very excited. You can find the details on how to sign up for free on thejorneyevents.com. The conference is live online from January 26th until February 1st. Now, without further ado, let's meet today's guest. We can work ourselves into the ground and still feel like we are never quite safe. The anxiety about money can show up whether we have billions or barely enough, and the number itself might not be what needs fixing. A personal development trainer and coach since 1995, Michelle Masters' work is an innovative alchemy of neuroscience based on change techniques, family constellation work, and quantum healing modalities, combined with profound understandings of what creates transformation and lasting change for people. Warm, funny, and insightful, she helps the transformation soak in more easily. Her hugely popular Money Magic workshop has helped people all over the world to transform their lives and money. Her Money Magic book became a bestseller in the US, Canada, Australia, and the UK, and she has appeared on stages, radio, TV, and was featured in a docuseries, A Year of Transformation. Here is my interview with Michelle Masters. Hi, Michelle. It's so great to have you on the podcast today. I've been looking forward to getting to chat with you because rewiring stress and money blocks, I feel, is such an important topic that I think almost everybody can relate to. So thanks for being here today and welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. It's such a joy to be here.
Yeah, the pleasure is all mine. I feel this is a topic we haven't really explored much on the podcast, so a new one for our listeners and for myself.
Oh, yay. That's great.
For starters, would you like to share a little bit about yourself, maybe the pieces of your journey or your story that you feel relate or connect to what you do today, and share with our listeners what it is that you do today?
Yeah, I looked a long time for something. I was really looking for something that had meaning for me, that at the end of the day felt was worth doing. And it took a while. And so I was in my early 30s when somebody said, you should go to this free seminar, and I'll go to any seminar that's free, learn something. At least that used to be the case. And it was a free seminar for NLP, Neuro-Linguistic Programming. In France, I think it's PNL, Programme Neuro-Linguistique, right? And within half an hour, I knew, this is what I want to do. Because they were having us do what I call little like NLP parlor tricks. But even those little things, I could feel things actually change and shift. Like in my body, it felt different when I thought about certain things. And I thought, well, if they can do that in 15 minutes, what can they really do? I stayed and it came to me really easily. It was almost like I was remembering it more than learning it. And so before I finished the first level and started the second, but before I'd even finished the second, they asked me to start assisting in their other trainings. And then I went from that to training, and I trained for them for 25 years and then went out on my own. So I've been doing this since 1995. I studied in 94. I've been doing the work since 1995, and it's taken me all over the world.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing that. It sounds like a wonderful journey and that you're aligning with what you feel passionate about and you do that for work. So I feel so much gratitude for when we actually get to do that and we get to have that sort of passion that we feel and work with that every day. That sounds amazing. I feel that NLP also is very empowering for people in the sense that it gives them tools to work on a variety of things that a lot of the other modalities can't reach in that sense. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, I did 4 years of therapy with a woman who was an absolute saint. Like, she was lovely, and I learned so much, but I learned a lot of self-acceptance and self-awareness and emotional vocabulary, but the patterns didn't change. And so when I found this, it actually changes the patterns. And it wasn't something you had to add to a practice every day. It was really like when the pattern changed, the pattern was changed. And it really does feel like rewriting software when you rewire the neurology. And so it's much more focused on change and much more precise.
Yeah, I feel that's exactly in a lot of the other approaches where maybe talk therapy, where we talk a lot about the problems, there's a bit of that action component that's missing that I feel NLP really can offer, where we're rewriting that story, that programming. Yeah, that's fascinating. And what kind of things do you work on with NLP with yourself, your clients? What kind of things come up?
All kinds of things, on relationship stuff, on self-worth stuff, on fears and phobias and stress and anxiety. But in 2006, they asked me to create a 2-day workshop around money, which I knew nothing about money. I had no relationship with money, but I was like so excited to be asked to do the course. I'm like, hey, yeah, put me in. And then I realized, oh my God, I got to now create this thing. But so I took a bunch of the tools and I applied them to money. And I tried them out on me first to make sure they wouldn't cause any bloating or blemishes or unpleasantness. Seemed to be okay. We did the workshop. We got really good feedback afterwards, in the months afterwards, about all the changes. And so in the weirdest way possible, I become known more for the money thing because of that class. So people say, oh, you're the money coach. I'm like, okay, sure. But yeah, that's taken me all over.
Yeah. And how do you feel that money relates, I want to say, to our well-being? Because when you say you didn't have a relationship with money, I think people have sometimes no relationship and sometimes all sorts of kind of relationships with money, be that really good or really bad or very stressful or anxiety inducing. So how in NLP and in how you work with your clients, how does money connect with their well-being, with their overall sense of how they feel?
Yeah, in our culture, we use money a lot to give ourselves a sense of safety and security and to do the things we want to do. Money blocks are usually, they come down to either safety and security or sense of worth. Those are the biggest, or family loyalties. Those are the 3 big blocks. There's some generic things like this incredibly common but not true belief that you have to work hard to make money. But money stress is one of the biggest stressors that people face, both individually and families and couples. It's huge. And so it's a really good way to start to improve somebody's quality of life in terms of getting rid of the stress, which is not necessarily about making more money. Like, I have clients who are worth more than $1 billion who are still riddled with anxiety, and they never feel like they have enough to be safe. So it's not about the number, but it's about revising the old anxieties and fears and beliefs that are in the way, both so people can feel better, feel calmer, feel safer, feel more of a sense of worth, and so that they can create the things they want without having to struggle or work hard.
Yeah, actually, that's opposite what we're taught.
Yes.
Oh my God, yes. That.
How many people do you know who are working so hard making no money?
Yeah, absolutely. Probably more than I know that are making money.
Exactly. And of the people who are making money, not all of them are working hard. And other people say you got to be really smart to make money. Oh, no. There are brilliant broke people all over the world. And there are people with a lot of money who are never going to win any intelligence awards, right? It's not about all those things. It's not about talent, broke like geniuses everywhere. It really is about how much good you're willing to let into your life, how much flow, and how willing you are to let your life be easy and good. And it's hard. That is harder than you would think.
Yeah, absolutely. Otherwise, people wouldn't be stressed about money at all.
Exactly.
So I definitely can relate to that. At first, I think that sounds simple, but it's quite hard to do.
Yeah, so you have to start revising all the beliefs about safety and security and then the beliefs about worth and how whether or not it's okay. And the biggest block I will tell you is the family loyalty piece, where when we have it better than the people we come from, we feel guilty on some level. So a lot of our struggles are they're not consciously, but they're subconsciously self-induced so that we don't have it too much better than the people we came from because
Really
we feel
interesting
guilty.
That you say that, because it almost feels like subconsciously we would make ourselves smaller than to fit more into whatever frame that is that everyone else is in. So yeah, in a way I could see that really affecting everything in our lives if we have these kind of loyalties.
Yeah, it's all about belonging. And if you go to a restaurant that you like, good restaurant with a group, and your appetizer comes first, it's a good restaurant. Everybody's food's coming. They all say, go ahead, eat it while it's hot. It just feels so weird to sit there and eat when nobody else has food. And that's just in a restaurant where nobody's starving. This plays on every level of our lives. And when we start to do better than our friends, our family, our ancestors, on some level, it feels really like we're eating when nobody else has food. And so we often sabotage it.
That's really interesting. Michelle, how would we know that this is even happening in our lives? I feel that a lot of people take this kind of feeling stressed or feeling anxious, just that's being an adult. That's just what it means to grow up and have to worry about all these things now. They just take this as a normal way that life should be. So how do we actually know if there are things and patterns and programs in there that we could maybe change?
Let's do 2 little experiments, okay? So first one, let's imagine well-meaning aliens passing through the galaxy decided to lift off of you all of your parents' and ancestors' fears and tragedies and losses and hurts, right? Let's just imagine they all lift up right off of your body and they go over to the side where you can still see them, but you're not in them. What happens?
I feel really light. As soon as you said the lifting off part and made that motion, I was like, wow, I can take a breath. Actually, there's a physical reaction to what you said.
Yeah. This is the answer. Almost everybody I've ever done this with has said, they said, I feel so much lighter. And we don't even realize we've been carrying that our whole lives until we try this and it's, oh, that's a really different game. That's part one. And now let's go even a little further and notice not just that, but some of the beliefs we pick up. Imagine you grew up in a family that came from 500 years of peace and prosperity, where your parents felt safe, loved, and knew that they mattered. Just imagine being conceived into that family, 500 years, peace and prosperity, parents safe, loved, know they matter. Imagine like being in the womb, getting born and growing up in that family. What's different about that version of you from the current one?
Wow, this is a big one. I feel that I don't have a worry in the world. Actually, that's not even something that comes into my mind. I think about what kind of good I want to do in the world. I have resources. I feel aligned because my family has been doing this for so long. And all I think about is how can I share this with others? And there's not even a worry about where the next paycheck comes from or the next client or anything like that at all.
And all we did was have you imagine a different kind of family and growing up, right? And everything feels different. I honestly think that's the life as a collective that we're moving towards. But right now, doing this work is part of what is going to free us up to get to that place. Because it is so much of it. We don't realize how much of ourselves have been conditioned and limited and shut down. And it's not to blame anybody's families or parents. Everybody does the best they can. And it has gotten better over the years. When people complain about things today and they talk about the good old days, I'm like, I don't know what good old days you folks are talking about, because there's been a lot of bad stuff for a long time that was normal that now we're horrified by. So it is getting better. But yeah, there's a whole lot of change that's available now that wasn't before, because these weren't options for our parents. There was no NLP. There wasn't the family constellation work. That wasn't around. So we've got a whole new tool set now to be able to finally start to let all those centuries of struggle go and start to create the way we're meant to be. And the way we were meant to come here and just create magic and beauty and all manner of good things.
Yeah, it's absolutely incredible, that kind of shift that just happened just from hearing a different story, right? It's not even my true history, just hearing that story and just for a moment putting myself in that perspective and thinking about that. I really want our listeners to try this too and do those two things, maybe even skip back in the episode later and do these two things again and see what comes up for you. It's absolutely incredible what just happened. Thank you for sharing those. I feel like those are two really powerful things that we can gauge a little bit what actually is maybe happening to us. And I want to say, Michelle, that nearly probably everybody has some kind of programming or some blocks that could benefit from working on them with NLP.
Yeah. What I tell people is if your life is working, like if you're really happy with where your life is, then that's fine. That's fine. If it ain't broke, you don't need to fix it. But if there's stuff you want, or if you're feeling stuck or struggling, that doesn't have to be happening. We've got options now.
What can our listeners imagine this to look like? So if they come and they'd like to work with you or they want to take a session with you, what would that look like for them? Where do you start working on, especially these stress blocks, these money blocks that kind of ripple through everything in our lives? Where do you start working on that? What can they imagine this to be like?
Yeah. The way I usually suggest people start is they can either start with my original book, which is, there's going to be an updated version published in August. So my original book will still be available until I think like January of 2026. And then that will become unavailable until the new book comes. But it's got stuff in it, or one of my workshops where we take people through a series of exercises that help them get clear on what they want, what they actually want. Not what they think they have to do to get most people have a 10-year plan on what they think they have to do to get to where they want. And quite often it doesn't need a 10-year plan. Quite often it's much closer than they realize. And so help them get clear on what they really want, start to notice the blocks and resistance and beliefs that are in the way. And then we go through and start revising stuff, revising beliefs, laying down new neurological pathways. Because the thing is, nobody is stuck because they're broken or lazy or stupid. The only reason people are stuck is they have either old patterning running, which is old beliefs, or these family loyalties. And I'll tell you, the old beliefs, those are in place by 3 years old, most of them, all of them by 6. And they're stored in a different part of the brain. They're not stored in your conscious mind. And most people are trying to work on them consciously. But that's if you've got faulty wiring in the basement and you sit around in the penthouse talking about the wiring, it doesn't change it. Somebody's got to go down in the basement, right? And so this work actually goes down in the basement and rewires stuff. And then what's amazing is if you rewrite software properly, you don't have to keep doing affirmations, your powerful software. Like you don't have to, it just runs differently. And so when these beliefs shift, when they get rewired, people are amazed. The single most common thing I hear all the time is, my income doubled or tripled and I didn't do anything differently. And I'll have people say, I had to do something differently. It's like, no, not necessarily. Because when the beliefs are different, the reality shifts. And I've had people have results. There is no way they can explain them. Like money that shows up in bank accounts, investment accounts that when they don't even touch them, triple. So it puts a lot of pressure on what we think is possible. We start to get into sort of quantum realms. I didn't name the course Money Magic, the leader, because I thought it sounded a little cheesy, but the owner of the company that I was doing it for suggested it. And so I thought, okay. Besides, it's hard to name a course, so I went with it. But there is a way in which it does feel like magic. The way that synchronicities happen and people show up and opportunities show up. I've been doing this work. I've done a lot of this work on me. It's not that I don't still have, there's always more work I can do on me. I'm an endless font of things to work on. But I've done a lot of the work on the money stuff. And so when there's something I want, and I'm clear I want it, if it doesn't show up on its own within a week without me doing anything, then I start to get curious about what's in the way. Because I kid you not, it's like almost every time it's like, I would really like this. And I'm clear that I get a phone call, I get a text, I get an email within days.
I love that.
Yeah.
And I'm curious about that perception that things must take a really long time to be efficient or to be good or to be fixed, let's say in air quotes. From what you're saying, I'm understanding that this is not really the case with NLP. And it can be very quick and still be very efficient and also complete in a sense that, as you said, some of those programs, they are changed and they don't come back. So how can that be with NLP? Is this simply because we're working on a different level with the subconscious? Or why is that time perception different with NLP?
I don't know that it's the NLP part. With NLP, we get change. So when I first designed the course, it was all NLP. People took the workshop, and like I said, we got feedback over the weeks and months that followed. And in 2008, I took a workshop called Matrix Energetics with Richard Bartlett and Melissa Joy, which is a quantum way of working. And so I added those quantum fields into the field of the class. And when I did that, people would register for the class and get like a check in the mail or a promotion or a windfall. Like when I teach the class, I usually ask how many of you got unexpected money before the class started after you registered. And it's usually like a third to half the class because it's quantumly, there is no time. And so when things shift quantumly, the effects can show up before the causes, because it all exists at once anyway. And so when you're shifting the what seems to be the present, it can shift not just the future, but the past.
Okay.
That's when it can keep it really fun.
Our timelines a little bit. If this is new to our listeners, maybe we'll open up a little bit and think that some of these things might be possible if we kind of tune into that and we maybe open up to the possibility that some things might not need to take as long as we have thought they would or been told that they must take. Yeah, this is actually great. I think this is also great in a sense, not just for money. Obviously, it's really great for money, but also for our own healing journeys, because we're often told for a lot of the things that happen that it's going to take a really long time. If at all, it will get better, or there must be a lot of suffering before anything can happen. And I feel that those things in themselves could also be some of the programming that we've taken on from outside of us as far as our own well-being goes. So it's very interesting that you say that. And especially for people who are maybe also on their own well-being or healing journeys, I feel that's a really important piece to acknowledge there too, is that could be part of the programming too.
Yeah. I have other courses, a course on love and relationship and connection, and then one on health and well-being. And we've had people who, God, I think it was the well-being one. I had a couple people afterwards come up and say they were healing from things their doctor said they could not heal from. What we call reality is so much more malleable than we realize. There really is no objective out there. Like we think there's a physical world out there, and any physicist, like the stuff around time, physicists have known this for a while, but any physicist worth their salt will also tell you there is no physical matter out there. There's only what they describe as energy, but they're more and more starting to say it might be consciousness. Physics and metaphysics is, somebody once wrote, physics is where science hides God. Because so much of what the higher level physics says is exactly what like Hindu mystics and like mystics for thousands of years have been saying about, it's all just consciousness. And so consciousness is much easier to shift than we realize.
Yeah. And the interesting piece is that I feel that a lot of that, as you said, runs in the background, like subconsciously. We've picked this up somewhere, maybe even over generations, right? If we think back to the exercise that you had me do, thinking back, okay, if we change the family lineage, what does that feel like? So a lot of these things feel like we've been carrying them around subconsciously and often don't know that's what's even causing some of these challenges or these blocks. until maybe you listen to a podcast like this, or you become aware, or you watch a show or something, and you actually start becoming aware. That's what could be happening. So this to me is really fascinating, because I think for our listeners, there's a piece here to bring some more awareness into our lives, to really become aware of some of the programming of what actually is it that we really believe and are passionate about, and what is it that's external programming that's running in the background there.
Yeah. When I was working on the new edition of my book, and someone said, you should probably include something in there that acknowledges that the 1% do control the world. And I'm like, oh no, I don't have to acknowledge that at all, because that's not true. It's a common belief. And so it's a common experience. But there are people who are not affected by that. And the more people whose beliefs shift and they start to realize that it's nothing on the outside is determining what we experience. It's all internally generated. And sometimes there's a collective, but people can. So somebody said to me, how do you ignore that reality? I was like, you don't ignore it. Let's imagine 2 million people are running the same software program. So they're getting the same results. And one person changes their software. It's not going to change everybody else's, but they're going to get different results. And each person that does that, now the level of the collective gets less dense until eventually the collective belief can't sustain itself anymore. And then we've got a whole new possibility for a whole new paradigm.
Yeah. And I feel we can apply this to our lives now, like in our own little corner of the world, and we can affect our lives. It was funny because as you're speaking, so for the past 8 years, we've lived in France. And one thing that I've really missed is my piano, because I wasn't able to bring it over, and I love taking breaks and just playing music. And for the past 8 years, I haven't been able to do that. I really missed it. It's too expensive. We don't have space in the house to put a piano anywhere. So for 8 years, really, there was every excuse in the book, and I just didn't make it work. So a couple of weeks ago, I was so frustrated. I just sat down and I'm like, why not? There's these little pianos. There's pianos you can even roll out on the desk, and I can just plug it into the computer. And as you said, in that moment, I saw a little advertisement pop up on the computer for a little keyboard that you can put on a stand really anywhere. And it was very affordable. Like, oh, this is like a hint that I should be doing this now. It's really fascinating that when we put our focus or our intent on something, all of a sudden there's a different perspective that opens up. And yeah, I'm happy to say I have a piano now. Yay! Yeah, it was exactly, there was a shift all of a sudden that I was thinking, why not? Why is this not possible? But it took 8 years to get to that. But as you said, very fascinating.
Yeah. And what I've noticed is there's two things. If you're clear about what you want, and you want it, and there's nothing in the way, stuff can show up really fast. Like one of my favorite stories about this is I was living out in the woods, and I had a chunk of a redwood tree that I decided to make a little altar out of. And it had been cut with chainsaws. And it had chainsaw gouges in it, and I wanted to sand them out. And I had something called a palm sander, which is a little handheld thing, goes like that. And so I was outside. I was trying to get rid of the chainsaw gouges with this little, and it was going to take forever. But it's all I had. And in the middle of the day in the week, I didn't think anybody was home. So I was trying to get in this sort of spiritual place, like chant, and I was, God, I wish I had a belt sander. Every 10 minutes, I'd be like, God, I wish I had a belt sander. About a half hour later, I hear the sound of someone crashing through the brush. And I look up, and it's one of my neighbors who's like bushwhacking to get to me. He didn't even take the time to go to my driveway. Bushwhacking to get to me. He comes up. He said, I thought I heard somebody sanding. And he looked at what I was doing, and he said, wouldn't that be easier with a belt sander? I said, yes, it would, actually. And so he lent me a belt sander. 30 minutes. The man bushwhacked through. And so, like I said, if we really want something and we're clear and it doesn't show up, it's because we have some sort of block or resistance in the way. And something shifted for you there, and then something showed up. But this is why this is so much of the work I do. We just shift the resistance. The resistance sounds like something we're doing wrong or bad. It's just old beliefs that are automatic. When you shift those, then stuff can show up in the most astounding ways.
Yeah. I want to encourage our listeners to try this in their own lives and really pick something that Michelle and I have been talking about, maybe just little things, even to Sander, as something that you're very clear about and that you've maybe been focusing on, and possibly there's something in the way, but try this out and see if some of these things start shifting for you, if you focus on this, if you're intentional about it, if you're putting awareness there. I'm curious to see if our listeners have some of these experiences as well, where all of a sudden this starts to shift, the perspective starts to shift, and things actually just line up and happen. So, yeah.
And if they don't feel bad, it just means you have patterning in the way, and patterning can be shifted.
And then you can work with Michelle to shift those.
Yes. Or somebody. But yes, for a while I have job security.
Yeah, I feel that every day there's something that I come up against, and then, so yeah, I could work on that. And then, so I could work on that. Like you said, I'm like the perpetual student. I feel that self-work never stops. So don't feel bad at all if you're coming up against some of these blocks and resistances. It's just like a little waypointer telling you that there are little things to work on as we're progressing. So
yeah, it's just information. It's good information. Okay, there's something there that needs to shift. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Michelle, you have something very exciting coming up, and we want to share with our listeners because I know they're going to see this in the show notes as well. So tell us a little bit about what's upcoming for you in January and February, so maybe our listeners can share that with you as well.
Yeah, I'm doing a course for the Shift Network. It's a variation on my Money Magic course. It's a 7-week course where we'll go through exercises, and I'll be there live online and take people through a series of exercises to shift, first to help them get clear, because you can't do anything to actually what you want. And then exercises to clear stuff. So some NLP exercises like to shift childhood beliefs, and another exercise that kind of sets down neurological pathways to get you from where you are now to where you want. We do some family constellation work to deal with some of those family loyalties, because that's usually the biggest block. There's another piece on getting clear on your relationship to money, which also includes some more some ancestral pieces, because that's such a big deal. And there's a piece around worth, self-worth, because that's huge when it comes to letting money come in our life. So those are exercises that people can repeat, as layers come off. And I will tell you, I tell this to people about my book too, is that the exercises in there, you can use them on anything. It doesn't have to be money. You can use it on health or relationship. Those are some tools, because it's hard for us to access the roots of subconscious patterning, because by definition, it's subconscious. And so what the patterns do is there are certain ways that you can actually get access into the original parts of the brain where the old patterning is stored, and then create connections between that part of the brain and the adult current parts of your brain. And that, because your brain is not designed to update itself. Unlike your phone, your brain is not designed to update itself. But what that does is it is a way to actually update really old patterning. Yeah, so that it can be different. So it's, like I said, it's a 7-week course. I think in US dollars, it's $349, about $350, I think. And then once you buy it, you have access to it ongoingly. I think that's how the shift works. And if that's not enough, if somebody wants to, we're going to do a live Money Magic in April in Northern California, and maybe one in Lisbon this year. I know you probably have people in Europe. We're looking at Lisbon maybe. So there's options if people want to do the work. The online class will be really accessible for people, because you can watch recordings, watch whenever you want. You don't have to pay to travel. Or if you like the in-person event, there are things you can do that can happen in person that you just can't replicate online. So there's options if people want to join there. Or there'll be a new book if that's more your speed. Just low entry cost, easy to take yourself through the exercises and get some change, and then have that as a resource ongoingly for when stuff comes up.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing those. And I very much look forward to your course. There'll be hopefully some curiosity around that as well for our listeners. And I feel that there'll be so many things that they can use in their daily lives. As you said, just add these tools to different things, and it doesn't have to be money, although I feel money is definitely on the minds of a lot of people. So for that, but also for your health and your happiness and your relationships, all good things in life. So yeah, we will put all of Michelle's offerings and the information to that in the show notes. So feel free to check that out. And I think that's coming up in February for the program. So if you feel like joining, we'll have all of the details in the show notes. And of course, if you want to be part of some of the other things that Michelle talked about, we'll make sure that we connect you so you can find out when all of that is upcoming. So Michelle, I just want to thank you for being here today. I feel like we had such a great conversation and I learned so much. And by extension, I hope our listeners also had a great time and learned a few of the different pieces that might be challenging them in their lives and when it comes to their money blocks, their health, their well-being. So thank you so much for coming on today and sharing all that with us.
Oh, you're so welcome. It was a joy, an absolute joy, Patrick.
Thank you, Michelle, and take really good care of yourself and all the best with the upcoming course. And thanks everyone for tuning in today, and be well until the next episode. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to listen in. If you enjoy the Jōrni Podcast, please support us by subscribing, sharing on social media, and leaving us a review. We appreciate you. And you can find more of The Jōrni on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and our website, thejorni.com. Sending you love and courage, and see you next time.